Hello and welcome, it's Bev. And today my expert guest is Elena Bensonoff. Welcome to you, Elena.
Thank you so much, Bev, for having me on your show.
It's such a delight. Thank you for being here. So how would you describe your own well-being journey?
Wow, what a journey it has been. Where should I begin? Childhood, later on in life?
Well, just let us know, was it a journey?
I think it's still an ongoing journey. For me, I grew up in the former Soviet Union in Kiev, and I was actually sick a lot. I had a lot of bronchitis, ear infections, stomach issues growing up, and when I moved to the United States, got married, had my first son, I had severe asthma. And at that point, I just graduated from pharmacy school and moved to Florida. And I remember not being able to inhale or exhale. It was the scariest feeling, not to be able to exhale. And at that point, I didn't have a physician because we just moved to Florida and I had to find a pulmonologist. So I went in and he said, okay, you have two options. The first option is you have to be admitted to the hospital. And I said, well, that's not an option I want to have. He said, okay, then you'll have to sign a form, a waiver that you're going to go home at your own risk. But you're going to be on 6 medications for the rest of your life. And of course, he gave me a steroid shot at that point. And I remember coming home thinking, this is definitely not the way I want to live my life. And I was on medications for a little bit, but I decided to explore and see why I'm having these severe symptoms, right? And how I can eliminate them. I was young, in my early 20s. So I recognized that we actually lived in a house that contained mold. That was the first thing. But that we couldn't change right away because that would require us moving. And then I thought, okay, well, diet probably has an impact on my health. Now, me graduating from pharmacy school, I never learned about the connection because that is not something that is taught in medicine. So I decided to search and I found the connection. And the connection was I was consuming a lot of dairy, yogurts, milk. I used to have cereal every morning for breakfast and cheese. And of course, I did not consume a lot of sugars, but I ate a lot of fruit. So the first thing I did is I eliminated dairy out of my diet. And dairy is a mucogenic, which what does it mean? It means it produces a lot of mucus. So people who are suffering from asthma, chronic, let's say sinusitis, right? Anything related to your sinuses, to your chest, the number one thing to eliminate is dairy. My doctor never told me to do that. So that was the first step. Then I decided to become gluten-free. And I eliminated most of the fruit out of my diet. I left berries and apples. And voila, my symptoms went away. And I have been symptom-free since then. I have not been on any medications. But it has been a journey because also my children. I have a few kids. I have 4 children, but a few of them have severe food allergies and food intolerances. So my children on this journey have taught me also a lot about health and how ingredients influence our day-to-day life, right? What we consume. So I became, I would say, a better person, a better practitioner because of my children as well. So, and then of course, after I finished pharmacy school, I thought, okay, there has to be something else out there, right? So I enrolled in medical fellowship. At that time, it was called through the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, which later on became a master's in metabolic and nutritional medicine at USF College of Medicine. So I enrolled in that program. It was a very intense program of really diving into what I thought at that time, the root causes of why people are sick. And for me, I was very curious because I wanted to know for myself, I wanted to know for my family members, And what I realized is most people that attended those conferences actually went in for exactly the same reasons. Either them or someone in their family was not feeling well, and there was no medical solution that was clear in resolving those issues. But what I didn't realize when I joined, that there was something much greater. And that much greater part is where I am today, what brought me into the work that I do. So on the first day of the conference, one of the cardiologists had us get up. It was about 300 physicians. And he said, we're going to take a break and practice Qigong. I remember looking at my friend and saying, what is Qigong? And he had us all standing up and basically feeling the energy flow between the hands. And it was the first time I became aware of the energy current, energy flow, and how powerful that was. So it was the first time I became truly aware as an adult, I should say. So that was the major light bulb that went off inside of me saying, okay, I want to explore the aspect of who I am as a human being, right? In a way that we're not able to touch, we're not able perhaps to measure in ways that are very physical, right? So that became my journey into discovering who I am and uncovering my purpose on this planet, and also recognizing how everything is interconnected. Body, our emotions, and our spiritual aspect of who we are create this wholeness, right, of what makes us unique and what makes us feel good or not so good, right? So that was the connection that I made over the last 11 years into where I am today.
Mm. And so, Elena, how would you describe what it is that you do? Because, you know, you're, I would say, a multimodal practitioner, and you're using and you're drawing on different things. So how do you describe what you do with clients?
Yes. So actually this is shifting. Even in the last few months, I've shifted into explaining and describing what I do. So imagine we all have this field of information that is around us. It's called the morphogenic field. So what I do, and this field contains information about you, right? Past, present, and future. It's all in this field. Information about your physicality, about your emotions, events and situations that happen in your life. Perhaps viruses that you have, right? All of this is information that is stored. So what I do is I actually read the field and I analyze the field. And it's through this information that I'm able to come up with very, very clear solutions of what each person needs. And one thing that I discovered that I find fascinating is, let's say before, even a year ago, I would treat a parasite. Let's say you have a parasite in your system, or you have a yeast or fungus in your system. So I would give you an herbal substance, let's say, to heal it, to clear it, to eliminate it out of your system. Well, what I realized was happening is every single organism that is interacting with our field, right? Even though we eliminate the organism, the information of that organism still stays. So that every organism, a microorganism, creates a holographic field of information that is interacting with the system. So even though I'm eliminating the microorganism, the information stays. So what I recognized is important is to also eliminate the field that is interfering with our own field.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me from my own journey. So that's amazing. And Elena, why do you believe that there's just this escalation and dramatic increase in chronic and mystery illnesses?
Gosh, there's so many environmental reasons. Emotional reasons. I think we're being called to, perhaps our higher selves are calling us to truly wake up. Wake up to our own abilities, our own light. And in order to wake up, we have to feel everything and eliminate anything that does not belong in our field. So I would say all the chronic illnesses that are happening at the moment are the greatest gifts to humanity, because It is a wake-up call for each person to truly become their own healers. And this is why I don't like to be called a healer, because all I do is realign the field of the person with their own physicality, and it's really the person themselves that is doing the healing.
That's amazing. So when I was just listening to some of the information that you share on your website, which is just a rich gold mine, you talked about embracing illness as a friend and a guide. So what do you mean by that, and why is it important?
So majority of the time, a majority of us that are faced perhaps with devastating, or we view it as devastating diagnoses, right? It is, and what happens is we meet it with resistance, right? So we tense up, we resist it, we project all the negative outcomes. Okay, so first I want to go back a little bit. Our higher self communicates to our physical body very clearly through powerful messages. Those messages are called emotions, right? Feelings, and then they translate into emotions. A lot of times people choose to not feel the emotions, but put them somewhere on the side and say, okay, I'll come back to this tomorrow. I'll come back to this later. I don't want to deal with this right now, right? This is too distracting. I need to focus on what I'm doing right now in the moment, right? So what happens is the messages, the ones that we put aside, or we park them somewhere in our body, right? Somewhere we store them in our cellular memory. The messages will become louder and louder. And they come in the form of disease eventually, right? Because they become denser. This energy becomes denser because our higher self really wants us to wake up. So in a way, it is our greatest gift to embrace it. Instead of coming up with resistance, but to embrace, open our heart and say, okay, be vulnerable, right? Be honest with ourselves. What is it? How have I neglected myself, right? Right? Because it's all of the abuse that we do to ourselves.
Yep.
We should really treat ourselves the way that we would treat our most dearest friend or a child or a parent, right? So that's really how we should be treating ourselves, but no one teaches us that because we always view ourselves as the last person to take care of. I know for me, that's how it used to always be. So it's truly important to give yourself time and space to allow the emotions to flow through versus putting them aside. So therefore, our illness that we encounter could be our greatest teacher because it's there to teach us to heal ourselves and to become free.
Yes, I never thought about that way. So that's a beautiful perspective because you're right. You know, when you are taking years or a lifetime of that form of abuse, in other words, a lack of self-care. And, you know, I recognize that a lot in myself where, you know, my father died when I was a young teenager. And so I felt that I needed to control my world. And so I didn't allow the emotion to come. So I understand what you're saying is we do park those things. I think it is a time now of awakening, of allowing ourselves to go through that process. It's not that you want to sit in a difficult emotion all the time, but you do need to move through it. You know, it's like you say, well, where else is it going to go? It's going to go to the cellular memory. So we better take the time early on.
And also, it's there's a major difference, you know, that has to happen. This major shift between healing and cure. Most people view, okay, you're my doctor, you're my healthcare provider. I come to you, I want you to cure me. I want you to fix me, right? So it's giving, as a patient, right, we're taught to give our power away to that pill, to that doctor, to the psychotherapist, whoever it is that you're seeing to fix us. Well, in reality, it's a shift that's happening right now. This is why people are becoming sicker and sicker. It's the difference between cure and healing, because healing has to take place inside of ourselves, where your physician, your nurse practitioner, your dietitian, whoever it is you're seeing, are all guides on your journey to self-discovery, to discover your own healing abilities and to take responsibility, right? So it's a difference between victim versus being absolutely in charge. I'm in charge of my life, not somebody else, not something outside of myself.
Yes, that really resonates with me, because that's how I positioned with my recent book that I released, was about that. It's about taking back that and feeling empowered to use those people, like you say, you referencing them as guides, but I guess to use them and their knowledge to support you, but to you to actually steer the bus, so that's awesome. And so you've just recently released your book, Holistic Wisdom, Awakening Your Inner Healer, which is available now on Kindle, on the Amazon Kindle, which is wonderful. So I'd love to know, Elena, why did you write it and who's this book for?
So the book I wrote for each person that is living on this planet. The reason I wrote this book is because I believe that every human being is capable and deserves to know the truth of how the healing takes place, and then they can do it. So the book is broken down into 3 parts, which are 3 integral parts that makes us who we are. And we cannot live on this planet without embracing all 3 and healing all 3. So everything is a systemic approach. So the first part is the body. And I talk about, actually I give very specific tools, how you can test, even without going to a physician. How do you test to see what food sensitivities you have? There's a way to do it in the comfort of your own home. How do you test? So then it's the focus, of course, is on adrenals, gut health, eliminating toxins in your life, right? And those toxins, of course, environmental toxins, food toxins, different ingredients that we use topically in personal care products, as well as the things we ingest. And then the second part, I go into the emotions, the mind, right? And in the mind, there's also a way that you can test and see which emotions are not balanced and what you can do to balance them. So there are very, very specific techniques of balancing, finding out imbalances and balancing. So it's sort of guiding you through the journey of becoming your own healer. And then I talk about heart intelligence in the book, which I think is crucial, right? It's really the biggest jump that most of us have to do at this very crucial point in our lives. It's the jump from very kind of mind-driven, logical thinking into heart, right? So it's about living your life from your heart, because our heart has the highest intelligence. And actually, heart as an organ is considered, the bigger brain that sends signals through the entire system. It communicates messages. First, we receive information through the heart, and then it sends messages to the brain in our head and the gut. So everything is connected. And then the last part of the book is about the soul and the anatomy of the soul, and what you can do to, first of all, find out what things are out of balance on a soul level. I talk about different organ systems and how they're linked to different colors, different sort of chakras, I call it the doorways, to our physicality, physical existence on this planet. And tying it all together, I talk about sacred geometry, crystals, aromatherapy, all the things that kind of make up who we are on this planet. And also recognizing and giving people a perspective. A lot of times people come in and they're only seeking the spiritual growth. But what they're neglecting the most is the physical existence on this planet. Or I have people who are just wanting, to fix their physicality, but they're completely ignoring and disconnecting from their heart, right, from their emotions. So it's sort of teaching people how everything is connected. And whether you are feeling out of sorts with your life path, or you have physical symptoms or emotional blocks, this book will guide you sort of in becoming your own investigator in your own health and what you can do to achieve wellness in your life.
Yes, no, it's, from what I've read so far, it is just a beautiful I think it's like it's going to be one of those books that you would read through, but you would keep coming back to, because as we evolve and we're on that journey, it's going to speak to different, different things will mean something to us. So that's really wonderful. And in the book, you write about health and wellness being all about effective communication between those aspects of body, mind, and soul. So what are a few key ways that we could do this?
Okay, so number one is, of course, to become aware of our own patterns. That's the most important thing. I would say if there's anything anyone can do, and that is to become truly aware. Number two, to become aware, you have to allow yourself the time and space. And that doesn't require much time. I would say 10 minutes a day to just silence. Silence is crucial because we have to be able to listen to what our body has to tell us. Right? So just as much time, and I write this in my book, oftentimes we ask people, how are you? Right? But how often do we ask ourselves, how am I? So this is a very important daily question we have to ask ourselves. But in order to hear an answer, hear a response, we have to be silent. So it's really about silencing and going inward to hear.
Yeah, that is so important. Yeah, I just think just those two things alone would give you and create the space and environment that you need. And over time, I guess, so somebody who's never sort of done anything like that about, sitting in that stillness, they may fidget or something like that in the beginning. But I guess with practice, this will take time to just come to that space of sitting in stillness. And I know that for me, one of the things that really supported me was just to use my breath so that my mind was clear, and just, concentrate on breathing in and breathing out and just focusing on the breath. And before you know it, it's sort of 5 minutes has passed and then 10 minutes has passed. And so that's beautiful. And I love that you've obviously focused on that different areas and you've got all these different tools. And one area that's really burning topic for me, because I'm going to be running retreats around whole body detoxing, is I'd love to get your understanding of why we need to detox, and what are some sort of key little areas that you would focus on? What's the low-hanging fruit we could focus on?
Gosh, there's so many things that are crucial in detoxification, and it's also very much misunderstood. Number one detox, besides eliminating toxic ingredients from skincare products, right? Pesticides, house cleaning products, these are a must, right? Detoxing, I would say, also eliminating foods that are creating imbalance in yourself. So it's important to know what foods you're sensitive to, okay? And eliminate those right away. Detoxing people in your life is important. Clearing, okay? Unhealthy attachments, people that are draining your energy. That is crucial. And that is one of the hardest things that I find for most people. It also took me a while to do that in my own life. So I would say detoxing people out of your lives that are not, that are taking your energy, that are not supporting you, that are not cheering for you, that are not loving you, that is crucial. You're probably asking about liver detox, kidney detox, and all those things. I think it's important to support our organ systems throughout daily life. So it's not just once in a while I'm going to detox my liver, I'm going to detox, my kidneys. So again, our body will reveal a lot. I would say alcohol, any kind of recreational drugs have to be eliminated. That is a must. Because what I find is a lot of the substances, actually in a lot of spiritual seekers, they're seeking all these mind-altering substances. But what it actually is doing is creating holes in the field. And I've been noticing this over the years, and now I'm able to measure these holes in the field. So a lot of entities can come and attach, because entities are looking for these holes to feed off of our light. Okay? So even though you might have You might be seeking the spiritual bypass. Oh, I want to experience this right now. I want to go into all these dimensions and explore the dimensions through using mind-altering substances, when in reality we're capable of experiencing all of those dimensions without any of the substances. What is blocking, right, for us to connect to that is all this mind, all the noise that we create on daily lives. So once we're able to detach from the noise, then we can connect to any dimension that we choose to experience. I do talk briefly about juicing because I find that it's it's actually creating a lot of damage for a lot of people. Juice detoxes, I'm not talking about incorporating vegetable juices in our diet as part of a healthy regimen. I'm talking about people that go on these juice crazes, right? And they juice tons of fruits a day. And then what ends up happening is most people actually come after a few months and they have digestive issues. They have overgrowth, overpopulation of fungus and candida. So for those people that are seeking juice cleanses for weeks at a time, months at a time, but they're fruit juices, I would say stay away from that, because you're creating more harm than balance in your own body.
Mm. That's so interesting. And I feel that the sense of this is that, you know, it's kind of like clean up your act and go back to basics with Mother Nature. So
Yes.
get your basics right, and, you know, just really be aware of what you are not only eating, but like you say, what you're putting on your skin, the company that you keep, the emotions that you're holding on to. All of those things make up the holistic body detoxing. So
That's right.
we're very aligned on our approach there. So that's wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that. And Elena, in terms of the book Holistic Wisdom, what legacy would you like to leave?
My legacy is truly to, first of all, eliminate chronic illness across the world and to empower each human being to their own healing potential.
That's really powerful.
I really feel the suffering needs to end, but it needs to end within each and every one of us.
Yes, and so you've got this book on Kindle at the moment, which is wonderful because it means it can get all over the place. What is your next step with the book?
So the next step, I'm actually in the process of creating an online course, the 30-day course. It's actually a program that each person will dive into the book, because the book is so, it flows so beautifully, but to incorporate it and practice it and for it to become a habit, right? It needs to be a journey. So it's going to be a holistic wisdom journey, probably 30-day journey. So it's coming out at the end of March. And that's the next step.
That's wonderful. And will there be a print book available at some point?
Yes, the print book is coming end of January, between January and February. It's a full color book with over 60 illustrations. So
I love holding books in my hands. So whilst I've got the Kindle book, I want to hold the book in my hands. I find that really sort of the energy of the book actually supports me too. So I love the online space, but I also love a physical book. So that's super. And Elena, what are your tips for living fabulously?
Living from a place of love. Love and compassion for myself and for everyone around me. Authentically, unapologetically, just being loving and kind.
And the world needs that, doesn't it? You know,
Yes.
If we were kind to ourselves and kind to one another, I think it would solve a lot of the situation that we experience on a day-to-day basis. And especially, you know, we're sort of ending a year and we're starting a new year. And it's just an opportunity, even though it's like a fresh start, you know, to to begin anew. So if you haven't, just by listening to what Elena has been sharing today, if there's something that's really resonating deeply for you, listen back to this interview again, because I know that you will take something more away each time that you listen. And please take the opportunity to get hold of her book. And I think some of the real confirmations for me, and also the insights for me, are that we are integrated. There is no separation between body, mind, and soul. And I know from my own journey that I was working in that physical space only and trying to find answers for myself in that physical space only. But when you recognize that there is these other aspects of ourselves, that there's, the emotions, the mind, and the soul, and the body, and that we work in every area, like you mentioned, that just focusing on a spiritual quest or just on a physical quest is not enough. We need to find that way to bring all of those aspects of ourselves into balance. So thank you so much for being with me today. And you can find Elena at her website. It's www.holistic.com, and also on Facebook under Holistic Inc. And I just know that she does these beautiful webinars, and I listened to the one that you did earlier this month. And
you did?
Yes, and you create such a beautiful space for people. So if you have the opportunity, also go and listen to that webinar, because it's going to set you up for a beautiful 2019. So Elena, thank you so much for being with me today. I just feel that the wisdom that you've shared is just going to resonate with so many people.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, and your beautiful heart. Thank you.